McMahon once back in WWE, Riddle suspended for a wellness policy violation, and John Cena has 3 choices for an opponent at Wrestlemania this year. All that and more on today's Casual Wrestling Daily.
What is up, people? It is Tuesday, December 13th. We have a Monday Night Raw breakdown for casual fans coming your way. But first, don't forget to go check out our patreon.com/The Casual Wrestling Show. Hit that follow button to be part of the community. And if you want to be part of the Casual Wrestling Channel's Bloodline, you can become a patron for just $5 a month. Like our current Patreon producers, it's Zinni, Redis JC, and Ian Newberry, the noobs. Take a couple minutes, hit the like button on this video. We are doing well. We are growing extremely fast. The channel is exceeding expectations right now. We've hit the top 50 on podcast charts a couple times. We've had a good following on YouTube. The Daily Show is growing. The Friday Show is doing well. So just take the 2 seconds that it takes, hit the like button, help get this episode into the algorithm, and we can grow and continue to do more and more cool things on this channel. As you might have seen yesterday, and continuing a trend here at least through December, the show will be posting around 5:30 p.m. Central Time. That's what YouTube told me. That's what YouTube analytics told me. That is when you guys like to watch the show. So unless I hear from a bunch of people telling me, nah, we want the show earlier or we want the show later, as of right now, 5:30 p.m. seems to be the time that YouTube says that's when you should post your show. That's for the best results, the best analytics. Do it. It actually gives me more time to prepare for the show, so I'm not mad at it. So let's do it that way for the foreseeable future. All right, so let's take some time to talk about wrestling. More importantly, let's talk about Monday Night Raw. So no Usos to start the show, no Bloodline to start the show. Nice little change up from what we're used to. We've gotten a little stagnant in the Triple H style of booking, in that we almost always start off with the comfortableness that we know being the Bloodline or the Usos. And this week we got to start off a little bit differently with Bayley versus Alexa Bliss for the #1 contender spot for Bianca Belair's title. Now, one miss here I think that happened a little bit is when you jump right into a match like this, when you jump right into a match with Bayley and Alexa Bliss, two superstars who are fan favorites, but right now neither one is on a hot enough streak that the crowd is just overly zealous and excited for these two. So when you start the show like this, you're banking on the fact that the crowd's already hot. And it did feel like for another consecutive week, the Monday Night Raw crowd just wasn't overly popping for anything. And so you jump right into a wrestling match, a #1 contenders match. That was a solid match, but I don't know if it was a crowd pleaser. I don't know if this was the type of match that fires up the crowd for Monday Night Raw. This isn't an opening match that just sets the world on fire. And then to make things worse, during the match, it was pretty early on, Alexa Bliss went for a Hurricanrana on Bayley, and she definitely landed a little bit awkward. It looked like she landed on her head, and she appeared to be wobbled for the entirety of that match. In me just using an eye test and watching Monday Night Raw, it appeared to me that Alexa Bliss was concussed. I mean, I thought that she was injured, and I get that the show must go on, and there's a level of toughness, but I thought that the referee should have looked a little deeper at the way nothing past that awkward bump looked correct to me. And so they finished the match. Alexa roughed it out, did a flip off the apron, and did some things, but nothing ever looked. It never felt like they were fully engaged in that match. And I think the crowd might have sensed a little bit of that tension. Therefore, they didn't fully commit to just falling in love with that match. I thought good match, nothing wrong with the match. It's setting up Alexa for Bianca, I'm assuming, at the Royal Rumble. That makes sense that they're going to need a couple title matches at Royal Rumble, and Alexa versus Bianca makes sense, especially if Wyatt is doing something at the Royal Rumble. There's something going on there. But what is this involvement with Bray Wyatt? At first we thought that it was going to be Bray coming for Alexa, but now it almost appears that Bray or Uncle Howdy have some kind of spell on Alexa Bliss. And this is the problem with this long-term story playing out over so many weeks, is that it gets a little bit messy because we haven't seen any interaction between Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss, yet we're supposed to piece together some kind of believement that on Monday Night Raw, Alexa Bliss is under the control of Bray Wyatt. The logo keeps flashing, but then on the other side, you have Bray. This Uncle Howdy is obviously controlling multiple people. It's not just Bray Wyatt, but we got to speed this up a little bit, or people are going to lose interest in this. But I'm okay. I didn't want Bayley versus Bianca again. I'm okay with Alexa Bliss versus Bianca, especially at Royal Rumble. It's different. It's fresh. We'll be able to roll with that and see what happens. And hopefully by Royal Rumble, this Bray Wyatt thing starts to take more shape and we know what's going on there. We got Otis and Gable, man. Otis and Gable are so underrated. It's obvious to me that they have officially made themselves just a mainstay as the heel tag team in WWE. Triple H leans on them week in and week out to get other teams over on a episode by episode basis. The only fear I have with Gable and Otis is if they can't rack up some wins, if they can't get a little bit of momentum going. One time during the summer they were tag team champions, and now they just look like tackling dummies. If they can't pick up a little bit of just momentum, is there a possibility that they begin to oversaturate television and just become tiresome? Because it does feel that way, right? It feels like they just get leaned on every week to do something, to put somebody over. Oh, we got a tag team that needs to go over here. Throw Alpha Academy out there and let them get involved. And they do it so well. And right now they're teetering on the same thing, I think, the Judgment Day that I'm going to talk about in just a minute. But Otis and Gable are teetering on, are we supposed to take them serious as a credible threat? Because they're both extremely talented. Or have we officially flipped the switch and go, they're a comedy act? And it's okay to do both, but I think that they're gonna have to pick up a few big wins in order to keep me from flipping that switch and going, they're comedy. They're here for comedy relief. They're here to make us laugh. And if that's the case, then let Otis go back to doing the worm. Let Chad Gable just completely turn into a goofball. If that's the case. If not, they're going to have to, we can't just rely on them week in and week out to put other teams over. They're going to have to start picking up some wins, some meaningful wins. They're going to have to start beating some tag teams that matter, and not in a 50-50 booking style, but they're actually going to have to win a couple of these programs and move on with a little bit of strength. Right now, Triple H, there's the haves and the have-nots in WWE right now. You have people that you assume are going to win or at least get 50-50 booking. And then you have Natalya, you have Mustafa Ali, you have the Alpha Academy, the have-nots that you just know when they come out to the ring, more often than not, they're there to enhance other talent. And it shouldn't be that blatantly obvious. You should, especially with when you look at those people, when you read that list, Natalya, extremely talented. Mustafa Ali, extremely talented. Alpha Academy, extremely talented. We've got to get those guys a couple credible wins so that we don't oversaturate this market the way we are. Let's talk about the Street Profits and how they weirdly work with Tozawa. He's another one of those guys that he just kind of, he's a fan favorite. I don't know what it is about him that the crowd loves, but fans love Tozawa. I love Tozawa, and he weirdly works with the Street Profits. But it's another one of these things that have just been kind of mashed together with no storyline. We're not really supposed to understand. Montez made some semblance of an attempt to go, here's why we came out to save Tozawa. But oddly, it does. And now the Street Profits are beefing with the Judgment Day. And just like the Alpha Academy, I have a big problem this week with the Judgment Day. They are teetering so dangerously close to being a comedy shtick. Like, if you look at them, look at what they're doing and who they're involved with and what's happening, and they're no longer meaningful. They haven't gone after any titles. They haven't gone after anything of any kind of significance. They've now turned into kind of, like I said, this gang of 8th graders who goes around and tries to pick on people. And so you've got Dominic Mysterio. He's doubling down on this little boy character, getting the mist sprayed in his eyes. It burns, mommy. It burns. That, like, they're doubling down. And I'm okay. Like, Dominic is playing this character well. If Dominic is willing to accept that that is what his character is, and the WWE isn't trying to push us into a position where we think like, oh, Dominic Mysterio is the next big thing. If Dominic Mysterio is willing to just accept that he makes like a good submissive bitch for Rhea Ripley, then I'm all for it. And I actually can get behind it. I've always had the problem with Dominic in the belief that they thought he was the next Rey Mysterio or the next Eddie Guerrero. If they're just selling him as kind of this submissive beta boy, I'm okay with that. I could get behind it. I can laugh. I think it's funny. I think it works. I actually think the Judgment Day have the potential to be funny. Damian Priest is oddly good at slipping in little like funny quips when the doctor was around. And like he said something about just be glad that's the only thing that's burning. And Dominic played off that very well. Like, is this doctor licensed? Like, they did well in a comedy act. But my problem is, does this put Rhea Ripley and Finn Balor in danger of being typecast into this comedy role? Because those two have no business being in a comedy faction. There is a weird buddy cop type relationship between Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio that could work as a comedy act tag team. I just don't think that you want to drag Rhea Ripley and Finn Balor down that tunnel and typecast them into a comedy faction. So I don't know exactly what's going on with the Judgment Day, but it feels like they may be sliding into a comedy act, and it's a dangerous, slippery slope for a lot of these factions and teams, because once you get typecast into the comedy role, it's not easy to dig yourself out of that hole. Let's talk about Miz, Gargano, and Dexter Lumis. I feel so sorry for these guys. And this is where I tell you guys, you talk about Triple H and everybody's taking this Triple H pill and drinking the Triple H Kool-Aid, and they tell me how great his booking it is. And then I point to this, right? I point to Gargano, Lumis, and Miz, and he has booked them into the absolute worst position. This story makes no sense. And individually, these guys are talented and we should care about them. We should care that Miz is an extremely talented wrestler, an extremely good heel, and these guys are holding this story together by whatever semblance of a story there is. And Gargano is a talented wrestler. Lumis, I have enjoyed. I think that he has potential to be an extremely good WWE superstar, but like, why are we supposed to care about Miz's emasculation and his lack of money? And now it's not even a lack of money, it's his allowance that Maurice gives him. Like, this feels like to me that Triple H laughed, and it feels very Vince McMahon-ish, that he saw the joke of the tiny balls and he laughed and he goes, let's just extend this out as far as we can and emasculate The Miz. But it's not working. There's no emotional investment in this. I have zero emotional investment in what happens to The Miz, because what do I care? What do I care? The Miz is getting paid every week to be on TV. Don't try to make me feel like somehow he's broke. The Miz isn't broke, and I'm not stupid, and I don't even think like high school, middle school, elementary school kids. No, but who is this story for? I mean, I really feel like they've just invested time into this and they've got to see it play out. But the faster they can cut this off, the better we are. I don't know why I'm supposed to care about this. And speaking of that, I don't like just a side note, because Candice LeRae, what she's got going on is fine. But did anybody else think that Candice LeRae's outfit looked like she was wearing a diaper? Go back and watch Monday Night Raw, pull up Candice LeRae, and like the white color scheme with the kind of straps on the side, it definitely to me looked like Candice LeRae was wearing a diaper. We got a little bit of a resolution to the KO and Elias and Ezekiel thing. I thought that was a clever way, since all these stories have collided, of resolving something that I felt like that was left unsaid, and they handled it well. instead of having KO just become all chummy with Elias, he did go out and make the save, but then he stuns Elias, which I think that works. But here's the bigger problem. The only thing that interests me in WWE right now, the only thing that I have emotional connection to are stories that are splintering off of the bloodline, be it KO, be it Sami Zayn, be it the Usos, be it Solo Sikoa. That is the only stories in WWE right now that have any kind of emotional meaning. And I think this is a little bit why the WWE is hesitant to break the bloodline up, because once they're gone, I don't know who we care about in WWE anymore. And I think it was obvious based on what happened on Raw that they're teasing us Solo Sikoa versus KO, which will be an epic match when it finally happens. I'd love to see that at Royal Rumble or right around Royal Rumble. I think that is a better choice in match than the proposed Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns, which I thought was a bad idea from the beginning, because KO does not need to take a pin from Roman Reigns. You need to leave that as a possibility for later down the road, as somebody who can beat Roman Reigns. If you start getting into a situation, if Roman gets through WrestleMania with the title, we're going to start being booked into the who's it going to be situation. And I think you want to keep KO as a viable option. I think that Sheamus versus Roman Reigns is the better option for Royal Rumble in a title match. They can put on a show, but Sheamus losing to Roman Reigns is not going to hurt anybody. It's not going to surprise anybody. It's going to be, Sheamus puts on hell of matches and Roman puts on good match. So they'll have a great match, but it doesn't really hurt either stock as much as KO would be hurt by taking a pin from Roman Reigns. But KO and Solo Sikoa has interesting implications, because if KO beats Solo Sikoa, he starts to line himself up as like a bloodline killer. And I think that's where KO needs to be positioned, is the thorn in the bloodline side, which eventually leads to what I believe being Sami and KO winning the tag team titles. I think that is the plan, and I think that is how you get there. Okay, so let's talk about Asuka, because we talked about Asuka yesterday, so let's pick up on Asuka a little bit. We talked about Asuka transitioning into a new character, and we saw last night on Monday Night Raw, Asuka come out and minus the makeup. So we got a little bit of a transformation from Asuka with the dripping makeup and the face paint to Asuka, no makeup, just straight up. This is Asuka. God damn, Asuka doesn't age. For somebody who is, I believe, in her 40s, she looks like she's maybe late 20s, early 30s. That's insane. But once again, this slow play plan by Triple H to basically drip feed us everything. Another missed opportunity. I think the fans were buzzing. I think I was sitting by my television waiting to see the Asuka change. And I know everybody's going to go, you got to be patient, bro. You got to be patient. Some things you don't. Some things you have to strike when the iron is hot. And I've noticed Tony Khan and Triple H are both bad about this. They get something that is hot, and instead of taking the time and taking the opportunity and just going, let's unleash it, they drip it out to us until we don't care anymore. And I don't know how long people are going to be interested in Asuka, especially after she went on to Twitter and announced a hiatus from WWE. So we don't even know how long that'll be, when she'll be back. I get, the problem right now is it looks to me like Triple H is lining up 50 surprises for the Royal Rumble. That's what it feels like to me. And there can definitely be an oversaturation of these surprises at Royal Rumble. Like if Asuka comes back as a new character, if Cody comes back, if Charlotte comes back, you can't have 10, 11 surprises if The Rock shows up. Each one overshadows the previous one. So I'm hoping that Asuka leaves a couple weeks. She can continue this story on social media and then shows back up and we get this rolling on a new Asuka character, because I do believe IWC and casual fans will invest in this idea. Asuka is well liked by, I'd say, almost every fan. She's not polarizing like some people, like Becky Lynch, Charlotte, John Cena, Roman Reigns. They're all very polarizing and have fans and have haters. Whereas Asuka, you pretty much across the board she's fan friendly to IWC, to casual. So how long can they keep her out and not bring in this new character that I think will generate a ton of buzz, especially we are in this I call it the dreaded 9 weeks. We have 7 left, and so far, all I've seen is Triple H cutting talent and not producing new interesting storylines. And last, we got Bobby Lashley being fired from WWE. I thought that was a good ending to Monday Night Raw. It's fun. I saw some mainstream media outlets pick up that Bobby Lashley was fired. I saw some crazy IWC people starting to post the Bobby Lashley is all elite, little graphics that everybody runs to. But obviously, this is a storyline. Obviously, this was well planned and this is working. And the problem with all of this shit is this all feels mid-card to me. Monday Night Raw feels like 3 hours of mid-card. Nothing screams main event unless it's Kevin Owens, which they're sticking into the mid-card. And that's the problem to me is Monday Night Raw feels like 3 hours of mid-card. It feels like there is no main event players. While Seth Rollins is fully capable of being that, this move to the babyface kind of mentality has slowed him down a little bit, and the fans love him and they sing his songs, but there's not those epic. We had an epic finish a couple weeks ago that involved Kevin Owens and I think the Bloodline. But other than that, these main events, they just feel like a continuation of like 3 hours of mid-card. Let's talk about some wrestling current events. So the big news, there's big news going around too. It came out today that Vince McMahon is facing 2 new fresh demands over allegations of sexual assault. So 2 new allegations, one from a previous referee who had accused him, and that's pretty open knowledge. A lot of people know about that story. And then one from a spa worker who accused him of assault as well. And so, once a dog, always a dog. Is that what we're looking at here? And I don't want to get real into the allegations part of this story because I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to get into the messiness. I just wanted to kind of start with that to lead into the fact of story number 2 is Vince McMahon has come out and said he is planning, or there are reports that he is planning a WWE comeback and he regrets retiring. I've been saying this, guys. You guys called me crazy. You told me that there was no way Vince McMahon was hiding in the shadows. There was no way Vince McMahon was coming back to WWE. That's insane. He won't. It's over. His reign of terror is over. He can't recover from this. You guys, if you don't think he has been sitting around and looking around going, I want back in, especially with this kind of resurgence that Triple H has created, Vince McMahon, I don't think he has that. He doesn't have the foresight to go, this is happening because I'm not there. Imagine all of these wrestlers who came back because of Triple H and what they're thinking right now that this story has come out, that there is a chance, even if it's a 5% chance, there's a chance that Vince McMahon returns to the WWE. All of these, the Karrion Crosses, the Candice LeRae's, the Johnny Garganos, all of these wrestlers have to be scared shitless. These are Triple H people. Now, I said this is the worst move possible because while I'm not on board with this idea that Triple H has just completely changed the industry as far as booking goes, I am on board with this idea that wrestlers like Triple H better than they like Vince McMahon. And the consensus from AEW wrestlers and WWE wrestlers is that WWE is a friendlier place to be without Vince McMahon. But the problem is, guys, as long as Vince McMahon owns the WWE, as long as he's that majority shareholder, he has some sort of power. He has a grip on the company. And how much influence is that? How much, even now, some of these things where, Triple H starts out hot and then we start to see some things that look suspect in the booking. How much influence does Vince McMahon have over Triple H if he goes, I own the company, why don't you try this, this, and this? Why don't you do this, this, and this? We don't know that. Like, they are a family, guys. This is Triple H. Vince McMahon is Triple H's father-in-law. There's conversation, there's talking, and there can be pressure put on him. Now, Vince McMahon is a little crazy because, I saw in one of the articles he said that he felt like he got bad advice and that these scandals would just blow over and that he could return back to... The scandals blew over because you left WWE. Because you got out of the company, most of the wrestling fans said, all right, we don't need to pay attention to this because Vince is gone and something good came out of something bad. No matter how bad it was, the wrestling fans only care about wrestling. That's one of the things about the fucking IWC is that they don't give a shit. There's not a lot of empathy. So they kind of just let Vince go off to die is kind of what it was, right? And we all said he could come back in 2 or 3 years, get inducted into the Hall of Fame. But now we're finding out this isn't fucking a year later. Vince McMahon has had plans to get back into the WWE and reassume a position of power. And this is the biggest problem. If Vince McMahon comes back, if he weasels his way back into this company, which I think is the worst possible thing for WWE, he will fracture the WWE audience. He will splinter. He will ruin the goodwill that has come, because I think like a little bit of this has just been false prophecy with Triple H. Fans have it's something new, it's something fresh, and we've decided that Triple H is the good guy, even though I don't think the booking has changed that much. But I think if Vince McMahon, it's like the devil comes back. It would be like the devil coming back, and I think that all of these new, all this new goodwill that wrestling fans have would just fly out the window. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to try and dig in a little deeper on this and kind of get some details but I wanted to get this out there because today's the day it broke. We don't have a lot to talk about tomorrow. So tomorrow, I think I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper dive if I investigate this and it makes sense and try and see what's really going on here. Okay, so Mia Yim deactivated her Twitter after a picture of her and Austin Theory went viral. Now, I don't have the picture here. I can put I'll put the picture right here. The picture will go right here. So I'll put my hand right here. I'll put the picture right here if you're watching on video. If not, if you're watching on, or if you're listening on audio, look it up. Just look up Mia Yim and Theory picture and you'll be able to see it. But there's a picture that went viral of Mia Yim jumping into the arms of, and this is like a portrait. This is a WWE photo that was taken like by professional photographers, but she's got her legs wrapped around Theory, got her arms wrapped around Theory. It's to me, as a married man, very inappropriate photo. Now what I've seen is there's two sides to this story, and it's very funny because it's split by the people who know and the people who don't know. And I see a lot of the basement dwelling, neckbeard IWC losing their shit, saying that this is stupid, that fans run these wrestlers off of Twitter because they're assholes. It's okay for men and women to be friends. That's all cool, man. That's all your opinions. You can have those opinions. But I will tell you, as a happily married person who has happily married friends, who has happily married people listening to this show, all of us fucking know it's not okay to take a photo like this. Never, ever. Not a chance. There is zero chance that Keith Lee was not offended by this photo in some form or fashion. And I'm not saying that they're fucking or anything. I'm not saying that there's something going on, but I'm also not going to put money on the fact that they're not, because like this is just so inappropriate. It doesn't make sense why WWE thought this was a good idea, why Mia Yim thought this was a good idea, why Austin Theory thought this was a good idea. It makes no sense. As a married person, I obviously I have a very different opinion on this than someone who's not married, but if you're married, that's not okay. I still, to this day, I don't understand how these wrestlers that are in relationships work for separate companies. I understand why it happens, because you got to take the opportunity that you take. But I don't think that you can make a relationship work when on one side, this person is around people that they're in intimate friendships with and travel with, and they're in hotels with on a daily basis. And then you're traveling on the other side of the world or the other side of the country. It just doesn't compute to me that is a formula for long-term success in a relationship. It feels like to me, if I was in that position, I would have to figure out, like Andrade and Charlotte, I would figure out a way to get into the same company. Even if it meant one of us has to sacrifice, I would try to figure it out. Nikki Cross is teasing Sanity. I'm not going to get real deep into this. More of WWE, monkey see, monkey do. They like to the Bray Wyatt conspiracy stuff. So let's start more conspiracies. Let's just lay into that. And so now there's been these social media videos and some videos on television of Nikki Cross drawing pictures with chalk and leaving little dates hidden in the drawings, and those dates line up to big events of Sanity. Eric Young is already back in line, so he's available to do his thing. Killian Dane, Sawyer Fulton, and Alexander Wolf don't appear to be under any kind of contract. So Sanity's pretty much a a lock-in that some version of Sanity will be returning. And I'm okay with that because I think they're an interesting group who never got a fair shake at like actually telling their story. So that could work. What else is in the news here, guys? Oh, Matt Riddle. We got to talk about Matt Riddle. So Matt Riddle, there's a rumor and a report going around that Matt Riddle had a wellness policy failure, and that's why he was written off TV. And this was likely his second wellness policy violation. And it's being reported that it is not for marijuana. So possible second offense, which means first one probably happened around summer is what they're assuming. I don't know. I don't have any information on this. This is crazy to me. Dave Meltzer is saying, and Brian Alvarez are saying that they think it's a delayed suspension, which means that he probably got popped at some point, and they delayed the suspension to let him continue his story on TV to write him off a little later. You know, I just have questions. I don't have a lot of information. I have more questions than I have information. You guys can try to piece this together for me. First off, what drug? If it's not marijuana, what drug is Riddle getting popped for and having problems? I'm assuming it's a pain pill. That to me, that's the only thing that makes sense, is that he does take some wild bumps. He's very physical. I could see Riddle being hooked on some form of pain pill. That's an assumption. I have no clue. And if it's a pain pill, I feel for that, because that, to me, when your body's in pain, like, that's a little different than a recreational drug. Rumor is that he's going to rehab for 6 weeks. That's good. I have a little bit of a problem with the word suspension. When you say like Riddle's been suspended from WWE, because I don't always know, this may not necessarily be a suspension, because I heard Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez talking about WWE usually reports these suspensions and tells them honestly, but this may not be a suspension. WWE may not be looking at this as much as an offense as they are, we need to help out this person. And it feels like, to me, that's what's happening. If they're sending him to rehab, they're giving him 6 weeks, they're going to try and help him get off of whatever he's on, then that's more WWE trying to help Riddle out than it is them suspending him from professional wrestling. So I'm going to keep an eye on this story and kind of update it over the next couple days. But that sucks. That's never fun. Like, I didn't like hearing about Moxley. I don't like hearing about Riddle, and I like, these are demons that people deal with, and I understand, and I have a very fundamental, I do have like a no drug, no drinking mentality. I've never done any of that stuff. So while I can empathize, I can't, or sympathize, I don't know which word is, I don't have any direct knowledge of these things because I just have never gotten myself involved in that stuff, but I can sympathize with the situation and go, that sucks. Like, it's gotta suck to fight those kind of demons. Last story. This is just a quick hitter here. WWE is considering 3 different options for John Cena at WrestleMania 39. And the least likely of those 3 right now is Austin Theory. Man, that's a little bit of a shocker to me, because I thought we were pretty penciled in on John Cena versus Austin Theory for WrestleMania 39. Now it looks like with the change in direction of Austin Theory, we're going to get a change in direction of the booking towards WrestleMania. And so the other 2 options that they're considering is, one, LA Knight. Like it, not mad at it. I think there could be some nice verbal battles between John Cena and LA Knight. But more than likely, I think what we're getting here is Logan Paul. Logan Paul went in and sold himself to Triple H. He sold himself in a meeting and told Triple H, you want me to make history again? You want something big? Let me go into WrestleMania and wrestle John Cena. And I think that makes the most sense. And I think that's ultimately what we're going to end up getting in Hollywood, is what's more Hollywood than John Cena, the greatest professional wrestler of all time, and Logan Paul, the biggest surprise in wrestling history, having a match. I think that makes sense. But that is all I have for you guys today. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Make sure to hit the like button on this video. It only takes a couple seconds. Helps us get into the algorithm. As always, I am the Notorious Nerdy D, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Hey, casual wrestling community show. You already know, talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Don't show that you gon' find. Tune in cause it's online. Hit 'em with a figure 4 leg lock, pile driver or clothesline. We bringing that heat like the show, but you should